Hi, I'm Mark Unger, producer of Roundtable. Because we find this presentation so special, we really would like for you to see this. Please watch.
Good evening and welcome to Single Shot Show at Manhattan Neighborhood Network's Roundtable. Tonight we will be talking about social impact of art and photography specifically. That's one of the most important and one of the most complex issues, and in order to discuss it we invited a specialist in social art, the person who promoting social artist term, Alan Freshman. Hello Alan.
I'm pleased to be here.
For joining us tonight. So as I understand, you're an independent art consultant who working with artists whose art is providing social impact and who you believe can ultimately make the society a better place, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So let's start with defining what is social artist, because we intuitively probably all understand what we're talking about, but we probably better set the terms. What is a social artist?
Yes, well, a social artist is very conscious of the social trends going on today. There can be global change. There can be a mindfulness of the things happening in society, like violence. Mm-hmm. And often this is what motivates an artist to do something, to say something, just to make a statement about social justice, global change. And I'm very passionate about helping these artists come to the forefront, and that's part of my job.
So you specifically helping the artists who making this change to happen, and what about the aesthetical part of their work? How is it connecting with the social impact of it?
Yes, I think they confuse the aesthetic part of their work with the social statement that they want to make. And that's important too. They don't have to neglect one and just have to focus on the social statement they want to make, whether it be about global change or violence in society. So I think the two can be fused together.
So basically that's what you do, you help an artist to
Yes.
realize how to fuse those two together. It's actually indeed one of the very important questions, especially in contemporary society. Unfortunately, we see a lot of objects that being referred as art. I wouldn't comment on at the artistic value, but which are ultimately just a journalistic statement in often visual form.
That's
which
correct.
have very little aesthetical impact and aesthetical value. And a lot of people, if you remember we mentioned before, actually profiteering from the concept of social impact of art and interest social art recently started to generate. So it's truly important to tell ones from another. And what are your methods of doing it? I mean, you
Yes.
probably have a special system determining which
I really
artists...
don't have a special system. I use my gut instinct, where I feel I can really get to know an artist. In fact, I recently traveled to Berlin to meet with some artists face to face, because it's hard to communicate over the internet.
Absolutely.
So I have a gut instinct that they have a conviction towards social art and making a difference in society and bringing awareness. You're not going to really create instantaneous change. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's a slow, premeditated change.
Yeah, actually I was thinking about this concept we discussed before, and I came to a very interesting realization that our society used to be in many aspects, in many ways, divided in two more or less equal halves, and now we're usually working with division of three. And one of the examples of that is art. It used to be either Aristotelian approach when the art have to be didactical, it have to teach you how to be good, period. And another approach was basically what Oscar Wilde would share, when you're just saying, it's art, it's good by itself, it doesn't matter what it says, even if it makes the world worse place. If it's aesthetically pleasant, it's still good.
Right.
And I have a feeling that now we actually witness an emergence of the middle way. And I do believe you're actually promoting exactly that, not just telling people that you have to be good in that particular way, because that's sometimes changing. It's educating people, making them more receptive towards the world and towards art, and using art as a vehicle of understanding the world better. Basically educating their soul instead of educating their mind. For that we have colleges, right?
Right, right.
So as we was talking before the program started, I had a feeling that that's exactly what you're trying to achieve, and the most important part of it, I do believe, is actually creating hope. So
Yes.
Yes.
I like to create hope, but yet to base it on reality. As you say, you can't give them false hopes, artists.
Absolutely, it have to be.
Otherwise, they're going to be very disappointed, and they'll fall from grace, so to speak, and that's not right.
Well, now we're talking about something else. We're talking about artist and his career, as I understand, right?
Yes.
That's a very interesting question too. How to determine whether or not artists have a chance to succeed.
Yes.
And as an artist, I know that part of it is, no matter how hard you try, is still a lottery. And if they do have a chance to succeed, what is the best approach? So as I understand, you're an expert in helping with determining this particular approach for the artist, right?
Yes. I mean, I work with very convicted artists. They're really convicted inside. But also they're realistic. They may be working on other projects as well. I visited recently an artist in Poland, and she has a healing center for her artwork. And speaking of social value, she's giving a relaxing lake and healing environment with infusing it together with her art.
Actually, that became a thing recently.
Yes.
One of the first examples of that was actually right here in New York. The Soviet-born painter Milamid had the exhibition that was called Healing Through the Art, I believe, something of this sort.
Yes.
Yeah. So that probably was the very start of this concept, and now it's actually very big, and it does make sense. Art can heal.
Yes.
Especially
that's another aspect of affording social value. It affords healing, qualities of healing. It can be patients in hospitals.
Indeed.
It can be the general public. So that is another aspect of social value.
Yeah. So in your experience, every artist have something from the same direction that they can do in order to be more successful with their artistic endeavors, or it's something very individual and cannot be generalized? What do you think?
Yes, I think it's very individual. Each artist has their own set of goals, and I try to help them prioritize their goals and make it and accelerate the progress of their career advancement. That's very important. And I try to do my best in that area.
So what do you consider to be the most important part of career investment then? I mean, we all understand that selling art is essential in any career, but there are other aspects.
That's the essentials. I mean, they have to sell their art in order to produce more art. Because I see so many artists accumulating a huge inventory of work, and they haven't any idea how to sell it and promote it, and then they get very down and disappointed about their careers. And they begin to measure their careers based on their sales, and then they lose their whole notion of what they set out to do in art, and they lose their passion. So it's very easy to get off focus. So I try to help artists get back on track, get back focused on their work, inside their passion, so their passion is driving their work.
So how it's achievable? Because I'm actually curious. I don't want you trade secrets, but if you would give us a couple of hints at least in what direction this process is going, I would be fascinated to hear.
I mean, sometimes I find myself doing some psychological coaching.
Really?
And I've even thought about, and I think that's part of my job as an art consultant, is to do some life coaching and psychological coaching. I mean, generally an artist can go straight to a life coach and get some advice, but I can do some life coaching and help motivate their career, get it off the ground by just giving them a little bit more insight into their work. What do they need to do to get to the next step? Mm-hmm. It's all increments. You have to go in increments. How can I get my work seen by a more mass audience, whether it be on social media? And generally, I work with artists in terms of becoming, they have to have a greater feeling towards their work, more confidence. So I help them boost their confidence.
Oh, it's many aspects.
Yes.
As a person who was actually going through this road myself,
yes,
there are several things that the artist indeed need to understand. One of them is where his artworks can be displayed. Well,
yes.
We probably will have to get back to this after the break, but it's indeed a fascinating subject.
Yes, it is.
Hello, this is Alex IG from Single Shot with the next single trick. Today we're going to be talking about uneven lighting. More often you have to deal with just one strong source of light. The strongest one, of course, would be the sun. And when it happens, half of your object is lit very brightly and another half is very dark, just like my face right now. Is there anything you can do about it? Sure. You can have professional lighting equipment, you can have professional light bouncing screens and many other things. But the simplest and easiest thing you can use, especially if you're doing it in a casual environment, is a regular piece of paper. Put it right against the direction of light and you will get the source of light balanced and your light being just right. We're back, and what I was saying that as emerging artist I was going through the several tasks that you need to achieve. One of them is to understand where to put your art. Another one is to understand what to do with it. The third one is to understand how to conduct yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's probably the most important one. When you need to meet people who can actually buy your art or to advance your career in one way or another, you need to understand how to approach them, what to say, what not to say.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're probably also teaching your artists how to approach that as well.
Yes, you have to be very diplomatic and you have to be very patient in the field of the arts because there's no overnight success.
Absolutely.
I think you'd agree with me.
Oh, it never happens. Well, people get lucky sometimes, but not
That's
often.
correct. That's correct.
You can't rely on it. Let's put it
right,
this way.
Right. It's not the best avenue to go because sometimes if they get instantaneous success, they can have some setbacks, as many artists have had personal setbacks in their life.
Oh, I can
because the fame came too quickly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not even fame. Some artists being extremely encouraged by selling one or two pieces in the very beginning of their career by just sheer luck. And then a dry spell for years. I've seen the examples of this very often and they was pretty prominent.
Right.
And
yes.
These situations are probably toughest to deal with. That really makes a person to start to question whether my art is worth it or it was just a shot that I had once, and that is it. And if you actually can help artists with this is amazing job. You probably should try to make it more, I wouldn't say mass production, but coaching people in forms of those seminars you mentioned before, but specifically targeting selling art and working with art. It could be very helpful for a lot of people. And you probably accomplished public speaker as well, I would imagine.
Well, yes. I mean, yes, I'm an accomplished public speaker. I've worked on doing training as well, training presentations in the corporate arena.
Absolutely.
And I really enjoy expressing myself in terms of training and coaching. And that, as I said before, that's part of my job as an art consultant, working with artists and promoting them so they can get really focused on their work and yet keep in mind their career advancement.
Well, that's actually really a beautiful trait, and we probably should focus a little bit on the theme of single shot, which is photography, and mention a little bit of the connection between social art and photography itself. And it is true that photography was part of social life and had a huge impact on what was happening throughout the years, and now it continues to be, but now its role actually is rapidly changing, and because of that, artists in specifically photographic field are posed with, on one hand, incredibly interesting opportunities, but on the other hand, very serious challenges that they was never experiencing before. As I understand, some of the artists you're working with actually from photographic field, right? Did you work with photographers?
Yes, I've worked with photographers when I actually owned a gallery, a startup entrepreneurial gallery.
Oh, this
yes,
is
I worked with photography.
So you probably know what I'm about to say, that one of the biggest challenges that especially the social part of photography is hugely impacted by existence of the mobile phones with good cameras.
Right.
And that hugely devalued the photography, especially when it comes to one of the most noble and oldest traits of it, street photography.
Right.
People just don't see as much value. They don't understand what is the difference between what I capture on my phone and what this person is trying to sell to me in a gallery for several $1,000s. And that's one of the biggest challenges for an artist to explain it, and probably for you to coach your artists to verbalize what is this difference.
Yes.
Between what anybody can have on their phone, and some of the phones, when it comes to a beautiful sunset, can do quite a job. I have to give that down to them. Yeah. So that's one of the challenges. Another one that social media you mentioned before is actually one of the things that became a vehicle of what artists can do with their career, and a lot of people are simply not coached and not that comfortable with using it properly. We recently seen a huge spike in requests from our guests to display their Instagram instead of displaying their website.
Right, right. Yes, there is a tendency to overuse Instagram, but there are some artists that are very clever in utilizing appropriating some images from Instagram. I know of one artist, it doesn't come to my mind, but he utilized and appropriated some artist's work on Instagram and reinterpreted it using the medium of watercolor. And that was I saw that exhibition while I was in Berlin.
Wow,
that's quite fascinating.
That's quite a legitimate way to approach it.
Yes.
I kind of recalling somebody is taking Instagram pictures, putting them in a Polaroid form, and basically adding a note and calling it his own art. Actually, pretty famous artist.
Right, right.
Yeah, so those things are also happening, and that's, in my opinion, is kind of questionable approach at best. Yeah, that's another thing we didn't discuss that much on this program, is copyright issues associated with displaying your work on the internet and in social media. It's a whole separate field.
There's a lot of cases in court now with artists because regarding the infringement of copyright.
Wow, there always was some of those cases, but now it kind of becoming to be an avalanche of those.
Yes, from what I understand, if you alter a piece of artwork enough to make it your own, then you're not infringing copyright.
That's the rule of thumb. It's
and so if you
called reasonable
reinterpret
use.
it, yes, and make it your own, then it's actually a new piece of artwork. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, and then it's for court to decide whether
Yes.
it was interpreted enough.
Right, right.
But anyways, I do believe that the true artist can focus on the original work done from the beginning to the end.
Yes.
And the more complex it is, the more original it has to
Yes.
be. And I'm pretty sure the ones you're working with are actually creating original pieces instead of just
Yes.
snatching it from somebody.
Getting back to your original point that there's so much a proliferation of photographs today on account of the iPhone.
Absolutely.
And there's a glut in photography, so many photographic images on social media, Instagram.
Indeed.
And it's hard to distinguish that work, as you mentioned, from previous work by classical photographers. I mean, they went to the streets and they had all of the elements of art. And working with all the elements of art, they produced this imagery on the streets.
Yes. Well, there is one huge difference between what was done, say, in 1960s and what is done right now on the street. It was immensely more complicated. It was requiring way more mastership.
Right.
Just technologically.
Yes.
So now it became much easier, and indeed there are by 100-fold more people who can actually produce a quality street photograph just in terms of technology, but it didn't change the fact that we don't have larger percentage of artists per capita in our society than we used to. This number, I do believe, stays stable. So the number of quality images is one,
yes.
The amount of art is something else. All right, so we will have a few minutes to conclude our conversation after this break. Hi, Alex AG again from Single Shot with another single trick. Today I want to tell you about using internal flash of the camera. Even some very professional cameras have that, but if you would ask a professional photographer, including myself, you would be told not to use it, especially on close-ups and especially when you're photographing people. Reason being, when you do it, the face being overblown. You're getting practically a white face instead of having nice skin tones and nice lighting. Is there anything you can do about it? Actually, yes, there is. You can just put in front of your flash a simple dollar bill and take a picture. What it will give you? Dollar bill is made of material thick enough to control enough light, and on top of it, it will give you some nice yellow tone to complement the skin tones of the person. This is a single trick by Single Shot. Watch us on YouTube. We was talking about challenges that are posed right now to traditional photography, and as I probably mentioned 1,000 times already on this program, I do believe that there are a couple of things that will be happening with photography in our day and age. One of them is photography will not be focusing on being realistic, accurately depicting reality which camera sees. And the second thing, it will become more narrative. It actually will tell more of the story than, again, just what camera sees. So do you think it would actually help the media to evolve and to become more than what it is right now?
Yes, I think it would help to evolve photography. I mean, I think people are going in every which direction in photography.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's going in so many different directions, but as you say, I think it'll become less and less a focus on depicting reality,
Exactly.
and more so on abstract, creating abstract photography, which has been around for quite a while yet. Abstract photography.
Well, abstraction is actually part of it, but I do believe that since we have all those beautiful tools that allow us
Yes.
to make something much more from the image we capture with the camera than what it actually is, we would actually give photo artists more of a creative license. Right now it's more of a mixed media than pure photography, but I do believe that either it will evolve into its own genre, or it will be actually considered 100% photography.
Yes.
And I do believe it's a natural direction it's taken, talking about social impact. This actually allows photograph to tell more of the story and to let artists to express more of what he feels and what he believes than just capturing what he sees. By just combining two images in one, you creating a completely new story which wouldn't exist otherwise.
No, yes, and I think we've arrived at digital photography. It's here, and it's here to stay.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, I'm friendly with a French digital photographer, and he does digital makeovers of old icons, of religious icons. He's done one. And it's very interesting that he's taken this, given it a total makeover with a digital overlay. And he says this brings it into the digital era, this imagery of this icon.
Well, it's really pretty ultimate fusion of old and new.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
probably that's what art is born to do.
Yes.
To create those fusions, to take the best of what we have in existence and always add something new for the better world, for the better society.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of social artists, thank you very much, Alan. It was a most interesting conversation. Good luck with making this world a better place. Thank you very much for joining
Alex.
us
Thank
today.
you very much. It's a pleasure.
I hope you found that worth watching as much as I did. I'm Mark Unger for Roundtable. Thanks for watching.